You ever feel like real estate investing is only for the wealthy or the well-connected? What if I told you the real secret isn't money, it's strategy? Today, we're breaking down how everyday people are using the BRRR method to turn one property into 5 without winning the lottery. I'm Robert with Renee, and this is the Brick by Brick podcast, where we help beginners build wealth through real estate, one property at a time.
So let's kick things off. For so many people, building real financial independence seems to point straight towards real estate. I mean, the potential is just huge, right?
Absolutely. It's often called one of the best ways, maybe the best way, to build that generational wealth. And the tax breaks. They're incredibly powerful.
Yeah, some of the best in the entire tax code, apparently. But actually getting started, it feels, well, intimidating. Like standing at the bottom of this massive mountain you just can't climb.
Oh, definitely. It's overwhelming, confusing, and yeah, you feel like you could lose your shirt if you don't know exactly what you're doing.
That feeling, that analysis paralysis, it stops so many people cold.
It's totally understandable. You've got complex financing, all this jargon, the sheer amount of money involved. It often stops potential investors before they even, type an address into Zillow.
Right, and a lot of beginners just jump straight into looking at houses.
Exactly. Without building that critical foundation first. You need that groundwork to get the best loan terms, the best deal.
Okay, so that's our mission today. We want to cut right through all that noise. We've dug into the source material and pulled out a really clear, actionable 9-step framework. It's for acquiring your very first rental property. We're going to cover everything, getting your money right, figuring out cash flow, even using inspections to your advantage, right through to closing the deal.
And that preparation piece, that's the secret weapon, honestly.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how much needs to happen before you even let yourself get excited about online listings.
You mean the money, the credit score?
Yeah, the liquid capital, getting that credit score optimized, having a solid strategy, success here. It's rarely just luck. It's about being strategic, being prepared. And that preparation translates directly into lower costs and ultimately higher profits down the line.
Okay, great. Let's unpack this 9-step journey then. And we have to start where, let's face it, most people hit their first big wall. The money, the capital. So step 1, this is kind of the reality check moment for beginners, isn't it? Getting that down payment together.
It really is. Because for a standard investment property loan, not your primary home lenders, see it as higher risk.
Which means they want more skin in the game?
Precisely. They demand a pretty significant chunk of money up front. Generally, you're looking at a minimum of 15% to 20% down.
15 to 20%. Okay, let's put some real numbers on that.
Yeah, because the percentage doesn't always hit home. If you're looking at, say, a modest $150,000 property, well, 15% is $22,500. 20% is $30,000. And that's just the down payment, not closing costs.
Right. And if you're in a pricier market, maybe a $400,000 duplex.
Then you're talking $60,000, maybe $80,000, just for the down payment. It quickly shows you why this is often easier for people who've already saved up a good amount of capital.
So the takeaway is buying a dedicated rental outright usually works better if you already have substantial savings.
Yes, and there's a really crucial reason for emphasizing having more than just the down payment. You need reserves.
Reserves for what?
Because things can and statistically will go wrong, especially in that first year. The water heater suddenly dies.
Yeah.
Or you have a vacancy for 3 months longer than expected, or unexpected tax assessment hits.
The surprises.
Exactly. If you jump in without enough cash reserves money you have, after paying the down payment and closing costs, you could be in deep trouble fast. You might have to sell at a loss or drain your retirement accounts just to keep afloat. That buffer, that emergency fund for the property, is absolute non-negotiable.
Okay, but let's say someone listening is really motivated, strategically ready, but they just don't have that 15-20% cash sitting around. The sources mention a workaround, house hacking.
Yes, house hacking. It's a brilliant strategy, especially for beginners, because it lowers that barrier significantly.
How does it work?
It leverages a specific type of loan, an FHA loan, Federal Housing Administration loan. You can use this if the property is a multifamily unit, like a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. And this is key, you agree to live in one of the units yourself.
And the magic of the FHA loan is the down payment, right?
That's the game changer. It requires only 3.5% down. 3.5%.
Wow. So on that $400,000 duplex example, instead of needing, say, $80,000,
you'd need just $14,000 for the down payment. It radically opens the door for people.
But there's a catch, you said. the living requirement.
Correct. That's the main condition you have to understand. You must live in one of the units for at least 1 full year.
Okay, so you live in one unit, rent out the others.
Right away. And ideally, the rent from the other units covers most, maybe even all, of your mortgage payment. It's like living for free or close to it.
And then after that year is up,
You're free to move out. Rent out the unit you were living in, and suddenly you're generating full cash flow from the entire property as a true investment.
that sounds amazing. But you mentioned a trade-off. This lower down payment isn't entirely free.
No, it's not. The trade-off with FHA loans is you also have to pay something called PMI, private mortgage insurance.
PMI, what's that?
It's basically insurance that protects the lender, not you, in case you default on the loan. Because you put down less money, they see you as slightly higher risk.
So it's an extra monthly cost.
Yes, it's added to your monthly payment. And it's important for beginners to know that PMI is an added cost, and it doesn't just disappear automatically. You usually need to hold the loan for a certain period and build up about 20% equity before you can ask the lender to remove it. So you need to factor that extra cost into your budget, at least for the first few years.
Good nuance. Temporary, but definitely an upfront cost. Now, just quickly, for listeners who might already own a home, are there other ways experienced investors find capital besides just saving?
Oh, sure. A common one is leveraging a HELOC, home equity line of credit, on their primary residence, tapping into the equity they've already built.
Okay.
Others sometimes use self-directed retirement accounts, like a solo 401k, but that gets complex and definitely needs expert advice. And of course, there's the classic partnership, finding someone with capital while you bring the deal, or the management skills. That's always an option if you don't have the full 15–20% yourself.
All right, so we've got a plan for the capital. Step 2 is building and, importantly, optimizing your credit score. A lot of people see their score as just a number, but you're saying it's directly tied to profit.
Absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting, like you said. Your credit health, your score, directly determines the interest rate the bank offers you. It's fundamentally a risk assessment for them.
Higher score, lower risk.
Exactly. Higher score means they see you as less likely to default, so they reward you with a lower interest rate.
Okay, connect the dots for us. Why is a slightly lower interest rate such a big deal for an investor?
Because it means a lower monthly mortgage payment. Simple as that. And lower monthly payments mean more positive cash flow hitting your bank account each month.
So more money left over after all expenses are paid.
Precisely. Let's say you're comparing two identical $300,000 properties. If your excellent credit saves you just half a percentage point on the interest rate, that could easily be $50, $100, maybe more, saved every single month.
Over 30 years, that adds up significantly.
Tens of thousands of dollars. Money that stays in your pocket, not the bank's. So optimizing your credit isn't just a chore, it's literally an investment in your future cash flow.
Makes total sense. So what's the target score we should be aiming for, and what are the concrete steps to get there?
The ideal goal, according to investment lenders, is definitely getting your score above 700, and preferably, really, above 730 before you even apply for pre-approval.
730, okay. What if someone's score is way below that?
Then credit repair becomes like step 1.5. You absolutely have to address it before moving forward seriously.
Got it. So lay out the most important actions someone can take to boost that score towards 730.
Okay, number one, without a doubt, is your credit utilization ratio.
Meaning how much of your available credit you're using.
Exactly. Keep it low. Under 30% is good. Under 10% is even better. Maxing out cards kills your score. Second, payment history. Make all your payments on time, every time. This is the single biggest factor in your score.
Okay, low utilization, on-time payments. What else?
Third, check your credit report religiously for errors. Get your free reports, go through them line by line. You'd be surprised how often mistakes, old debts that aren't yours, accounts reported incorrectly, drag scores down.
And fix those errors before applying for a loan.
Absolutely critical. Trying to fix errors during the underwriting process, it causes huge delays, major headaches, and can genuinely kill your deal. Get your credit clean before you start talking seriously to lenders.
Okay, capital plan is forming. Credit is being optimized. Now we need to shift into defining the strategy and, crucially, the budget. Let's talk step 3, speaking to lenders.
Yes, and it's really important to clarify what this step is and isn't. This is about speaking with multiple lenders, maybe 3 or 4, to compare what they might offer you.
Yeah.
It is absolutely not applying for a loan yet.
So the goal is information gathering.
Purely information gathering. You're trying to define your realistic budget parameters before you waste energy looking at properties you simply can't afford.
And you mentioned a critical warning here. Something about credit pulls.
Yes, do not give any mortgage company permission to run a hard credit pull at this stage,
Why not?
because every hard inquiry dings your credit score slightly.
Mm-hmm.
We want to protect that score we just worked hard to optimize. You don't want multiple hard pulls just from shopping around for quotes.
Okay, so no hard pull. What information do you give them to get these preliminary quotes?
You give them your estimated credit score range, details about your income, how much, where it comes from, how long you've been earning it, maybe some info about your job or business. If you're self-employed, they'll likely want to see a couple of years of tax returns to gauge income stability.
And based on that, they'll give you
projected quotes for interest rates and, most importantly, an estimate of the maximum mortgage amount you could likely get approved for. That number defines your shopping budget.
Got it. Now, lenders always talk about DTI, debt-to-income ratio. People hear the term, but can you break down what it actually is and why lenders care so much about it?
Sure. DTI is simply the percentage of your gross monthly income, that's income before taxes, that goes towards paying all your recurring monthly debts.
All debts, like what?
Everything. Car payments, student loans, minimum credit card payments, any other loans, plus the projected monthly cost of the new property, the PITI, we'll talk about later.
Okay, and why is that percentage so critical for lenders?
Because it tells them how much capacity you have to safely take on more debt. For investment properties, lenders are usually stricter. They typically want to see a DTI below 43%, sometimes even lower, like under 40%, especially for a first-time investor.
So even if you have a high income, if your existing debts are also high, your DTI could be too high for them.
Exactly. If your DTI is too high, they'll likely deny the loan, regardless of your income level. They see you as having insufficient free cash flow to handle potential bumps in the road with the rental property, like vacancies or repairs.
Wow, okay. So this info gathering step with lenders gives you the hard data on your borrowing capacity, which flows right into the next decision. Step 4, choosing the right type of property to target. We know the usual suspects: single-family houses, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, condos, maybe small apartment buildings. If capital is tight, where should a beginner focus?
Well, the budget you just defined in step 3 is really the main driver here. Generally speaking, the more doors, the higher the price tag. A fourplex costs more than a duplex, which costs more than a single-family home usually.
So beginners with limited funds
Should probably concentrate their search on single-family homes, duplexes, or maybe small condo apartment units if the numbers work. Duplexes are often a sweet spot because, as we said, they opened up that FHA house hacking option, lowering the entry cost dramatically.
Now, the source material had a pretty strong warning about one specific type, especially for first-timers: condos. Why the caution around condominiums?
Yeah, condos can be tricky for beginner investors for 2 main reasons, and both hit your profitability.
Okay, what's the first one?
The financial hit. HOA fees, homeowners association fees. These are monthly charges that can range from, a couple $100 to sometimes over $1,000 a month in high amenity buildings.
And that money just goes to the association.
Right. It covers shared amenities, maintenance, maybe utilities. But the problem is that fee eats directly into your cash flow every single month, whether the unit is rented or not. And often, you're paying for amenities like pools or gyms that don't necessarily let you charge significantly higher rent to your tenant. It just diminishes your profit margin.
Okay, so HOA fees are drawback 1. What's the second?
It's about control, or rather the lack of it.
Yeah.
Condos almost always have very strict rules and regulations set by the HOA.
Rules about what?
About what you can and can't do with the property, especially renovations or aesthetic changes. As an investor, a key strategy is often the value add. Maybe you want to update the kitchen, put in nicer flooring, and close a balcony to justify higher rent.
But the HOA might say no.
Exactly. They might have rules against certain types of flooring, exterior modifications, even things like what color you can paint your front door. If the HOA limits your ability to improve the property and add value, it really caps your potential returns and limits your strategic options.
I see. So it's not just about cost, it's about losing control over your own asset. How does a beginner figure out which property type single-family duplex actually performs best in their specific town or city?
Yeah, this is where you absolutely need local expertise. Online research only gets you so far. You need to connect with people on the ground.
Like who?
Local real estate agents who specialize in investment properties, or experienced property managers who operate in the neighborhoods you're considering. They know the market dynamics, they know if single-family rentals are flying off the shelves, or if the city's zoning favors multifamily construction, or which neighborhoods are seeing rapid appreciation versus stagnation. They provide that crucial local context.
All right, we've saved up, We're working on the credit, we've talked to lenders to get a budget, and we've picked a target property type. Now we finally get to step 5, the actual research and analysis of potential properties. This feels like where the rubber meets the road, maybe where people get a bit scared.
It is. This is where you start looking at spending real money so the stakes feel higher. And that's why the warning bears repeating.
Don't start this step until steps 1 through 4 are done.
Absolutely. Don't fall in love with a house online before you know if you can actually afford it. Step 3. Or if your credit is strong enough to get a decent loan. Step 2. That just sets you up for heartbreak or, even worse, rushing into a bad deal because you feel pressured.
Okay. And the absolute golden rule for this entire research phase, the non-negotiable standard for any potential investment is...
It must be cash flow positive.
Cash flow positive. Let's spend some time really breaking that down. Define it clearly.
Okay, cash flow positive simply means that the money coming in from rent each month has to be more than all the money going out for the property's expenses.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
If you're paying out more than you collect in rent,
You're losing money every month. You're basically subsidizing your tenant's housing, and that is not a sustainable investment strategy.
makes sense. So let's break down those monthly expenses. People know about the mortgage payment, often called PITI. What's in that?
Right, PITI is the core mortgage component. It stands for principal, paying down the loan, interest, the bank's profit, taxes, property taxes, and insurance, homeowner's insurance. That's your base payment.
But you're saying true investment budgeting goes beyond just PITI.
Oh, absolutely. A smart investor, especially a beginner, must budget for reserves that often get overlooked. The two big ones are vacancy rate reserves and capital expenditure reserves, or CapEx.
Okay, explain those. Vacancy first.
The vacancy reserve is budgeting for the reality that your property won't be occupied 100% of the time. Tenants move out, it takes time to clean, market, and find a new tenant. So you should set aside a percentage of the potential monthly rent, typically 5% to 10% every month, to cover your costs during those empty periods.
Got it. And CapEx.
CapEx reserves are for the big, expensive things that eventually wear out and need replacing. We're talking the roof, the HVAC system, heating and air conditioning, the water heater, maybe major appliances. These things have a limited lifespan.
And they cost thousands when they fail.
Exactly. So you need to save for them proactively, setting aside maybe $100, $150, $200 per month per unit, depending on the age and condition of the property. That way, when the $15,000 roof replacement comes due in 10 years, you actually have the money saved instead of it being a financial crisis.
Okay, this is crucial. Let's run through a quick hypothetical example. Say we find a $250,000 property.
Perfect. Let's say you put 20% down, $50,000.
Right.
So you're financing $200,000.
What's the PITI roughly?
Okay, at maybe a 6% interest rate over 30 years, your principal and interest, P&I, might be around $1,200 per month. Let's estimate taxes and insurance, TI, are another $400 per month combined.
So total PITI is $1,600.
Right, $1,600 per month. Now, the other costs, let's say the potential rent for this place, based on similar properties nearby comps, is $2,000 per month.
Okay, $2,000 income, now the expenses.
Let's budget. Vacancy, 5% of $2,000 rent equals $100 per month. Repairs, maintenance, maybe 8% of rent equals $160 per month for the small stuff. CapEx reserve, let's budget $150 per month for the big stuff. Property management, if you hire someone, maybe 10% of rent equals $200 per month. Optional but common.
Okay, add those up. $100 plus $160 plus $150 plus $200 in operating reserves and management costs.
Yep. So now your total estimated monthly expenses are the PITI, $1,600, plus these reserves costs, $610, which equals $2,210.
Whoa. Okay, wait. The rent was only $2,000, but the total expenses are $2,210.
Exactly. This property, even though it looks okay on the surface, is actually cash flow negative by $210 per month once you budget properly. This is precisely why running the full numbers, including reserves, is so critical.
So if this was the property you liked, what are your options?
You basically have two choices. Either negotiate that purchase price way down to lower your P&I payment, or you walk away and find a different property that either costs less or can command significantly higher rent, say $2,400, to generate positive cash flow.
And that positive cash flow makes everything
Far easier and far more manageable, as the source material puts it. It's your safety net.
Now, even if cash flow is just breaking even or slightly positive, remind us, investors are still making money in other ways, right?
Absolutely. You're building equity as the tenant effectively pays down your mortgage principal each month. That's forced savings. And hopefully the property value itself is appreciating over the long term.
But cash flow is king for beginners.
For sustainability, yes. Those other things are great. They build long-term wealth. but they're often unrealized gains on paper. Positive cash flow is the cash in your bank account now that protects you when vacancies happen or unexpected repairs pop up. It keeps the investment sustainable month to month. Hashtag 3.2, the renovation risk and location priority.
Okay, let's talk about the condition of the property when you buy it. For a first-timer, the advice is pretty clear. Prioritize places needing only cosmetic fixes.
Yes, strongly advised. Think new carpet, fresh paint, maybe updating light fixtures or landscaping, minor stuff.
And strongly avoid properties needing major work.
Definitely. Steer clear of anything requiring major system overhauls. We're talking foundation repairs, needing a whole new roof, replacing the entire HVAC system, major plumbing or electrical work.
Why such a strong warning against those fixer-uppers for beginners?
Because those big projects cost serious money, tens of thousands of dollars, easily. And almost every new investor wildly underestimates two things.
Yeah.
The actual final cost and the time it will take.
The classic 2-month reno turns into 6 months.
All the time. You run into unexpected problems behind the walls, permit delays, contractor issues. Meanwhile, the property's sitting vacant, not generating income, and just draining your cash reserves. If you're starting with limited capital, a major renovation project can sink you before you even get your first tenant in. Stick to turnkey or near turnkey for your first deal.
Makes sense. Let's shift to location. The old mantra, location, location, location. What makes a good location for a rental property?
It's paramount, truly. You're not buying for yourself. You're buying to attract and keep high-quality, reliable, long-term tenants.
So what features attract those kinds of renters?
Think about what makes an area desirable to live in. Safety is usually number one. Good school districts are huge, even for tenants without kids, as it indicates neighborhood stability. Well-maintained parks, access to good jobs, desirable amenities like nice restaurants, grocery stores, maybe decent public transport. These things lead to lower vacancy rates and allow you to justify charging competitive rents.
Okay, now here's a strategic tip from the research. Let's say you find a property in a great location, it meets your quality standards, but the numbers show it's just barely breaking even on cash flow, or maybe slightly negative like our example. What should you do?
Don't just walk away immediately. If it's close and desirable in other ways, you should definitely make an offer below the asking price.
Try to negotiate it down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even getting the seller to come down by $5,000 or $10,000 on that $250,000 property can make a meaningful difference. It lowers your loan amount, which lowers your monthly P&I payment, and that small change might be enough to push the deal from slightly negative or break even into safely positive cash flow territory.
And sellers might actually accept a lower offer.
They often do, especially if they're motivated to sell quickly or if the property's been sitting on the market for a bit. A slightly lower price with a solid, pre-approved buyer is often better than holding out for top dollar indefinitely.
Okay, we've done the research, we've run the numbers, found a promising property that looks like it can be cash flow positive, maybe after a small negotiation. Now it's time to get serious about buying it. We need to formalize the financing and build the team. Step 6, getting that formal pre-approval letter.
Right. So step 3 was just getting estimates. Step 6 is where you actually choose one lender, hopefully the one who offered the best preliminary terms back in step 3, and you say, okay, let's do this. You give them permission to do the deep dive.
And this is when the hard credit pull happens.
This is it. They'll run your credit officially. And speed can be important here. You want a lender who can process your application and issue that pre-approval letter fairly quickly, because sellers definitely prefer buyers who already have their financing lined up and ready to go.
So when the lender does this deep dive, what are they scrutinizing now beyond what they estimated earlier?
They're verifying everything. They'll confirm your actual debt-to-income ratio using documented proof of income and debts. They'll look closely at your employment history. Stability is key. They'll audit your assets and cash reserves. They want to see you have money for the down payment, closing costs, and those reserves we talked about.
And for an investment property specifically.
They'll also factor in the potential rental income from the property itself. Usually they'll order an appraisal, and the appraiser will estimate the market rent. This helps assure the lender that the asset they're lending on can actually support the debt service. The final pre-approval letter will state the maximum loan amount they're willing to give you for this specific type of property.
Okay, that pre-approval letter is golden. Now you have buying power, which leads straight to step 7, finding and partnering with a great real estate agent. Now, I know some people, especially if they found the property online themselves, might think, why do I need an agent? Why is the right agent still so critical?
Oh, a great agent, especially one who understands investors, is invaluable.
Uh-huh.
They're your boots on the ground, your local market expert. They do more than just unlock doors.
Like what?
They can often pinpoint properties that perfectly match the budget from your pre-approval letter and your specific strategy, like finding duplexes for house hacking. They often hear about deals before they hit Zillow or Redfin off-market opportunities. They know which neighborhoods are truly up and coming versus just hyped. They have historical pricing data, insights into seller motivations. Maybe they know the listing agent personally.
So they bring market intelligence and negotiation leverage.
Exactly. And crucially, you want an agent who specializes in working with investors, not just someone who primarily sells primary homes to families.
How can you tell the difference?
Ask them. Interview a few agents. Ask about their experience with multifamily properties, with 1031 exchanges, with analyzing rental comps. Do they understand CapEx reserves? Do they talk about cash-on-cash return? The source material used a great analogy. Finding the right agent is like dating. You might have to talk to a few before you find the right fit. If the communication isn't great, if they don't seem to understand your investment goals, don't hesitate to move on and find someone else. Don't just stick with the first person you talk to.
But once you find that great agent,
It's incredibly valuable. It's not just about this one deal. Ideally, you're looking for a long-term partner, someone who can help you find and acquire multiple properties over the years as you build your portfolio. They become a key member of your wealth-building team, right alongside a good accountant or property manager.
all right, the agent helps find the perfect deal, you make an offer based on your pre-approval, and miracle of miracles, the seller accepts. We're almost there. But step 8 is absolutely crucial: inspections. The sources hammer this point home: your offer must be contingent on inspections. Explain why this is non-negotiable.
It's your ultimate safety net, your escape hatch. It's the single most important thing protecting you from buying a money pit. The inspection period allows you to bring in professionals, a general home inspector, maybe specialists like roofers, plumbers, electricians if needed to uncover any hidden problems.
Problems the seller might not have disclosed or might not even know about.
Exactly. Things like hidden water damage behind walls, subtle foundation cracks, mold in the attic, faulty wiring, a sewer line about to collapse. Things that could cost you a fortune to fix after you own the place. You absolutely have to assume, going in, that the inspection will find something. Very few properties are perfect.
The source mentioned an anecdote about their first property needing a roof fix discovered during inspection.
Yep, happens all the time. And that's okay. The goal isn't necessarily to find a flawless property. It's to uncover the risks before you're legally bound to buy it.
So what kind of issues should make a first-time investor seriously consider walking away?
Anything major and structural is a huge red flag, especially if the repair cost eats up all your reserves. Big foundation issues, a roof needing immediate replacement, widespread mold, major plumbing or electrical system failures. Even things that seem less dramatic, like discovering the main sewer line under the yard is cracked and needs digging up, that can easily be a $10,000 to $20,000 surprise. If the cost to fix is more than you can comfortably handle, you need to be prepared to walk.
Okay, but the inspection isn't just about finding deal breakers, it's also a powerful negotiation tool, right?
Absolutely. This is where you potentially get a second bite at the apple on price. Once the inspector gives you their report, you get quotes from qualified contractors for any necessary repairs identified.
And then you go back to the seller.
Exactly. You present the findings and the repair estimates. You then have leverage to ask the seller to do one of two things: either fix the specific issues themselves before closing, or, more commonly, reduce the agreed-upon selling price by the amount of the estimated repairs.
A price reduction or a seller credit at closing?
Right. Basically, Mr. Seller, the inspection found the water heater is shot and needs $1,500 to replace. We need you to cover that cost, either by fixing it or lowering the price by $1,500.
Do sellers actually agree to this often? It feels like they might just say, tough luck.
They agree more often than you might think. Because think about their position. If they refuse to negotiate and you walk away because of the inspection contingency, they have to put the property back on the market.
Which looks bad to other buyers.
Right. Future buyers and their agents will wonder why the first deal fell through, and the seller will likely have to disclose the known issues anyway. So often, it's easier and faster for them to just agree to a reasonable price reduction or repair credit to keep the current deal moving forward.
But crucially, the investor has to be willing to use that escape hatch if needed.
100%. This is non-negotiable. If the inspection reveals major expensive problems and the seller absolutely refuses to budge on price or repairs, you must be prepared to exercise your contingency, walk away from the deal, get your deposit back, and start looking for a different property. Never fall so in love with a deal that you ignore major red flags found during inspection. That's how you lose big.
Okay. We navigated the inspections, maybe renegotiated the price a bit, the lender is happy, everything looks good. We've made it to the final step. Step 9, closing escrow. The sources say this part can feel complex too. Lots of moving parts.
Yeah, closing isn't just one moment. It's a process, usually managed by a neutral third party like an escrow company or a closing attorney. And yes, there's a lot going on behind the scenes and a fair bit of paperwork involved. You need to be prepared.
What are the key things the buyer needs to do during closing?
Primarily, you'll be signing a mountain of documents. The final loan paperwork, the property deed transferring ownership, various disclosure forms, title documents. Make sure you understand what you're signing. And, critically, you need to ensure your funds are ready.
Funds meaning the down payment.
The down payment, yes, but also all the closing costs. This is something beginners often underestimate or forget to budget for adequately.
Right. Closing costs. Let's talk about those. They're on top of the down payment.
Correct. Totally separate. Closing costs cover a whole range of fees associated with finalizing the transaction.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Okay, you've got lender fees, things like loan origination fees, underwriting fees, points if you paid any. Then there are third-party fees, the appraisal cost, title insurance, which protects you and the lender against ownership claims, attorney fees, escrow fees, recording fees to the county. You might also prepay some property taxes and homeowners insurance premiums.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of little things that add up. What's a typical percentage range for closing costs?
It varies by location and lender, but a common range is typically between 2% and 5% of the loan amount. Not the purchase price, the loan amount. Sometimes it can be higher.
So on our $250,000 property example, with a $200,000 loan, 2% to 5% of $200K is
Anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 in closing costs. On top of your $50,000 down payment, it's a significant chunk of cash you need ready to wire at closing. Absolutely essential to factor this into your initial capital planning back in step 1.
crucial point. But once all the papers are signed, all the money is transferred.
The property is officially legally yours. Congratulations, you're a real estate investor. You get the keys.
And you're free to start any planned minor renovations, place your first tenant, and start collecting rent.
Exactly. And this is the moment we hinted at way back in the intro, the point where you can finally start taking advantage of those incredibly powerful tax benefits that come with owning rental property.
Okay, let's touch on the big ones. What are the key tax strategies investors use?
This is really where real estate shines as a wealth-building tool. The first, and arguably most important for cash flow, is depreciation.
Depreciation. How does that work? The property value is usually going up.
I know it sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But the IRS views the building itself, not the land it sits on, as gradually wearing out over time, even if the market value is increasing. So they allow you to deduct a portion of the building's value as a business expense on your taxes each year.
Even though you didn't actually spend that money that year?
Correct. It's a phantom expense.
Mm-hmm.
For residential rental property, the IRS lets you depreciate the building's value over 27.5 years.
Okay, run the numbers on our example. $250K a property. How much is the land versus the building?
The county tax assessment usually breaks that down. Let's say the land is valued at $50,000. That leaves $200,000 for the building's value. You divide that $200,000 by 27.5 years.
Okay, $200,000 divided by 27.5 is about $7,272 per year.
Exactly. So you get to deduct over $7,000 from your taxable rental income every single year for 27.5 years, just for owning the property. This deduction can often shelter most, if not all, of your positive cash flow from income taxes, especially in the early years. It's a massive benefit.
Wow, that is huge. What's the other major tax strategy investors use, maybe more down the road?
That would be the 1031 exchange. This is incredibly powerful for scaling your portfolio over time.
What does it let you do?
Essentially, Section 131 of the tax code allows you to sell an investment property and defer paying capital gains taxes on a profit. If you reinvest those proceeds into buying another like-kind investment property of equal or greater value within a specific time frame, usually 180 days.
So you can sell, take all the profit, buy a bigger or better property, and pay no tax on the gain from the first property.
Correct. You defer the taxes. This allows investors to continuously trade up, using their full profits to acquire more or larger properties over their investing career, effectively compounding their wealth tax-free until they eventually decide to cash out much later in life or pass the properties on to heirs. It's a cornerstone of long-term real estate wealth building. Hashtag 5.2. Addressing the bad credit scenario, Q&A.
Okay, we've laid out this fantastic 9-step path, but it really hinges on having decent capital and, as we discussed in step 2, that good credit score, ideally 730 plus Act 2. Let's be real, though. What if someone listening has bad credit right now? Is it just impossible for them to buy an investment property?
Impossible. No. Significantly more difficult and more expensive. Absolutely yes. Which really underscores why focusing on credit repair first, step 2, is almost always the smartest move. Traditional banks, the ones offering the best rates, are very unlikely to approve a loan for someone with a low credit score for an investment property.
So if traditional banks say no, what are the alternative routes? Where else can someone with bad credit potentially get financing?
They generally have to turn to alternative non-bank lenders. These lenders are willing to take on more risk, but they charge a hefty premium for it.
What are the main types?
The most common one you hear about is a hard money lender.
Hard money. What does that mean?
These are usually private individuals or specialized lending companies that make short-term loans based primarily on the value of the property itself, the hard asset, rather than solely on the borrower's creditworthiness.
So they care more about the deal than borrower's score.
To an extent, yes. They'll fund deals quickly, often with less paperwork than a bank. But the trade-off is significant. Hard money loans typically have much higher interest rates, think double or even triple traditional mortgage rates, and they often charge substantial upfront fees or points.
Yeah.
They're usually best suited for short-term projects like fix and flips, not really for long-term buy and hold rentals because the payments are so high.
Okay, so hard money is one option, but expensive and short-term. What else?
Another route is private money or private equity lenders. This is a bit broader. It could be wealthy individuals, family offices, or small investment groups who lend money outside the traditional banking system.
How is that different from hard money?
Private money lenders might look more closely at the specific deal, the property's potential, and maybe the investor's experience or plan, not just the raw asset value. Terms can sometimes be more flexible or slightly better than hard money, especially if you build a relationship or bring a really compelling deal. Many experienced investors eventually gravitate towards using private money for the flexibility it offers, even if their credit is good. It often involves more of a partnership feel.
Got it. And then there's the most straightforward option if you have the means.
Right. The final option, which requires no credit check at all, is simply buying the property entirely with cash. If you have enough capital saved up to purchase the property outright, then your credit score becomes irrelevant for that particular transaction.
But obviously that's not feasible for most first-time investors. It's the most capital-intensive route by far. So the core message really remains unchanged. While these alternatives exist, the most efficient, cost-effective, and sustainable path to building long-term wealth through rental properties starts with laying that strong foundation of good credit and adequate savings. Taking the time to fix your credit first will save you a fortune in the long run. Hashtag outro.
Wow, that 9-step structure really demystifies the process. We went all the way from getting your capital and credit right, aiming for that 730 plus score, through analyzing cash flow with PITI and reserves, finding the right property, using inspections for negotiation, closing the deal, and even touching on those powerful tax benefits like depreciation. Absolutely. I think it clearly shows that success in real estate investing isn't really about luck or just stumbling into a good deal. It's about following a meticulous strategy, doing your homework, that due diligence, and, really importantly, finding the right people to have on your team. The right lender, the right agent, a good inspector, maybe a tax advisor. Without nailing those foundational steps, especially 1 through 4, the whole process just becomes so much harder, way more expensive, and definitely a lot riskier.
So for everyone listening, now that you know these exact steps, from hitting that 730 score to calculating CapEx to understanding depreciation, here's something to think about. Which piece of your foundation needs strengthening first? Is it your savings, your credit score, or starting to build relationships with potential real estate team members? What's one concrete action you can take this week to move closer to being financially ready?
If you got value from this episode, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone ready to start their first deal.
And remember, every investor starts somewhere. Keep learning, keep moving, and keep building your real estate foundation.
Brick by brick.
This episode was sponsored by Riverside-Realty.com, your partner in building smarter real estate investments.